yet to see observation. Do you recall? Do you recall this? So let's see what is observation. Observation is basically you are going to be observing, and then Acha, we didn't talk about the scales. When we used questionnaire, we also talk about scales. Scales are based on your perception, belief, or whatever feeling you have towards certain phenomena. Okay, the best method is you have that. I mean, it is called as attitude scales. So there are different types of attitude scales that we have, usually used in qualitative study kind of, or even in quantitative study there may be certain areas where you may use qualitative scale. Like for example, you have seen questionnaires with like uh, uh, I strongly agree, then neutral, disagree, strongly disagree, right? These are based on your perception. So, whatever the respondent feels, if he feels, yes, I am strongly agreeing with this, then it is basically an attitude of that respondent. So, it is called as attitude scale. There are different types of attitude scale, but Likert scale is the one that is commonly used. We're not going too much into the detail, but just to understand what scales is, because we use scaling questionnaire questions in questionnaire. Are you aware of that? Are you aware of that? We will see some of the scales that we use, and not typically, I mean, theoretical ones, but the ones that are given. But then we will see what are the types of scales that we generally use. Likert scale, which is very, very common, wherein you have a declarative, statements that you will express. Like, for example, when I say Likert scale, usually you can have even 10 statements, 11 statements, or even like I will say, like, I very, very, very strongly agree on this. Depends on how strongly or you agree or disagree, how neutral you are, etc. Right? So that is one, and we will see one or two in the later part after we finish observation. Any doubts so far? Are you able to understand from whatever we started with data collection? Class,
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
just 1 second. Sorry about it. Yeah. So observation actually, you are going to be observing the behavior and then recording whatever is important to your study. So when I say observation, any kind of setting, you can actually do the setting, or if it is going to be in a natural setting. Like the other day, I gave you an example of behavior of tribal people or food habits of tribal people. So you may observe how what they eat, how frequently do they have meal, etc. And what time do they usually have. All these are observed and recorded. So now you will be observing what are the things that you will be observing if it's an observation method of data collection. Based on the characteristics and conditions like physical appearance, how they look, are they fat, are they obese, etc. Right? Or any kind of physiological symptoms, what time they wake up, what time do they eat, what time do they run or walk, etc. And any activities like their health status, how emotional they are, all these are based on observation. And any skill that they sing, they play drums or anything of that kind, and any performance that they are going to be doing behavioral, like We may have some, they will be, we are talking about tribal people's behavior or tribal people's food habits or living habits. So we are going to say like they make their huts. When the hut is broken, they start repairing it themselves without calling somebody. All these are some of the behaviors. This is one of the medical studies, which is an example that is quoted here. Again, when you talk about communication, how do they communicate? When do they communicate, etc. And how is their environment? Like what are they surrounded by? How are their neighbors? And how is their living habitat, etc. These are certain things that you will be observing when I talk about observing the behavior of living style of tribals in a particular village. Now, again, structured, unstructured observation and participant and non-participant. This also I have mentioned. And when I say structured, it means these are certain things like at what time do they have. You have brought down, like, see, you have noted down lunch, what time do they have, breakfast, what time do they have, what do they have for breakfast, what do they have for lunch, what do they have for dinner, in between meal and all. You're not, if it is an unstructured, you are going to write down what are the things that they have, when do they, even the moment they get up, they have some water, that also you will be recording. There is no structure as such, but you will be recording as and when you watch them. Supposing in between they have groundnuts, that also you will be noting down, right? This is the difference between structured and unstructured. When I say structured, you have a predefined thing. You've made like lunch at this time they have breakfast at this time, then they have milk after say every meal. Then after every meal, you have, for example, brought something like a sheet with questions, which you will be filling based on what you observe. But if it is unstructured, as and when you see some behavioral, let's say, trait, you will be recording it. But then when you talk about participant and non-participant, if it is going to be a non-participant, I will be standing away from that and then I will be noting, or I will be a third party. Whereas if it is a participant, say for example, there is an accident that has happened on the road. Okay. So I will be along with the crowd and I will be observing and noting down either mentally or I will be noting down on my pad and paper, right? So I am a part of that crowd which is watching and I will be noting down. If I were non-participant observation, if it's a non-participant observation, I will be standing there, I will be seeing what each person is, how each person is reacting to that accident and how the police is investigating, what kind of questions are they, putting to the public, what kind of answers are they receiving. All these are, say, non-participant observation. Are you following? Any doubts? Class? I see. So I've given you this advantages of participant observation. Basically, investigator does not actually totally rely on his intuition. He's also a part of the subject. He also wants to know what is built in and he checks how valid is the argument. Like, for example, if I'm going to be a participant, let us take some, say, for example, cookery contest, right? If I'm going to be a non participant observation, at the time he finished cooking, right? I will note down the time, how long he took to cook the dish. And supposing I'm not allowed to taste it if I'm not a participant, I will be seeing he added so much of salt, it tastes good, etc. But how will I know how it tasted? I've just noted down based on the viewers' responses, the people who have tasted the dish, their responses. I did not taste it. If I were a participant, I will also taste it, and certain things I will know only when I go through it. Are you able to follow? Whereas disadvantages are it is very time consuming and I will have my own bias into it. Whatever I have observed, I will have my own bias and then I will give the judgment. Any doubts so far? Non-participant, again, sometimes, if it's like, I need to take a position where I'm not a part of the group, I don't disturb the group. Sometimes, if it's going to be a criminal investigation, crime investigation, I'm not going to be participating. It is even more easier for me to solve the case. This is how sometimes police have their own people who, observe it from outside, and then you get a proper, idea of it, right? So you don't have bias at all when you're going to be a non-participant. Any doubts so far? Any doubt? Okay. So you see those, you don't have so much in detail, but I can still explain if you want later on. Okay. Now, what are the tools used? We use rating scale and checklist. We just saw rating scale based on your attitude. Strongly agree, disagree, and neutral. Do you want me to go through those slides in detail? I do have a few more slides, like, what are the errors and how it works, what are the features of a non-participant observation, etc. So I'll just go through it since we have it here. Okay. Basically, different raters have their own standards based on, it will sometimes reduce the reliability if it is going to be observation. Therefore, I have to actually see how best I can reduce. But this is observation method is subject to error at all. So again, halo effect basically is sometimes I may judge. This is what it is. My judgment or my bias is always there when it is going to be an observation and recording the observation. It could be positive, it could be negative. So therefore, when my bias comes into it, there is definitely a halo effect that is being there, right? Again, logically, when a rater rates, say for example, I strongly agree with this, right? But then again, if there is another characteristics which I'm not at all aware of it, say for example, uh, a person singing and dancing together, I have to observe and I have to see he is multi-talented. So what happens is, logically, I will say he is extremely good at singing and dancing. But whereas I may pay attention only to his singing, I may not have so much of focus on his dancing. But still, I say because he is multi-talented. So one area of it I have left out. Are you following, class? Yeah. And again, when I say there is central tendency error, what is central tendency? We've always seen, say for example, that middle part of it. So we have to be unbiased and we'll have to see from the middle part of it. So when I'm rating, it is either this extreme or that extreme. That middle part never comes. If it's a rating scale and if I'm observing and then recording, right? This generally happens when it is going to be a rating scale that I'm using and I'm an observer. So that middle part is completely ignored, and that central tendency error tends to crop up. And again, leniency. If I like something, I give a very high score. If I'm not so very much receptive about something, I tend to, ignore that part at all. Like, for example, I said he sings and dances. I did not pay attention to his dancing. I only said he's multi talented, right? So, which is again an error. Reactive measurement, again, see, sometimes, even though I'm just a participant, I'm just a thing, I may tend to react to certain behaviors, which is actually not an acceptable one. Understand, class? Any doubts?
No, ma'am.
So now what do we use in a observation this thing? We use a rating scale and a checklist. What is basically a checklist? Checklist is what all I should observe. Like I said, they are living habits. What time do they wake up till the time they go to sleep, in between, whatever, from that time to this time, whatever activities they are engaged in, right? I need to note them. So I make a checklist: lunch, dinner, and then are they engaged in some kind of dance, or what do they do for their recreation? What do they do in their leisure, etc. Their talents, all these are made as a checklist. And so I am going to observe based on them. So, I may be an observer, but I may not be the researcher. I may be the researcher and observer too. Do you understand the difference? Which means, though I'm a researcher, I may personally get into that data collection by observing, or I may request somebody else to do it on my behalf. Even a job interview, part of it, though they ask you questions, it is also based on observation. They observe your body language, they observe how you speak, etc. That is also an observation. Any doubts? Hope I'm clear. Okay. So now again, checklist has to be constructed very carefully, where you will have to consider all that you have to observe. Nothing should be left out, and it should be related. Like, you need to group it, like morning activities, afternoon activities, evening activities. If it's a job interview, say etiquette of the candidate, mannerisms, and then body language, his grooming style, his answering style, his attitude towards the job, right? All these things will have to be, they will give you different categories under which you will have to observe. They have to be arranged in logical order, and it has to be in clear and simple language. And it has to be doable, observable. So, you cannot say, uh, there are certain things that you will not be able to, observe. But that is also, say, for example, what do they do when their house is closed? Do they hit their children within four doors? You cannot see all those things, right? So again, these are certain things that you cannot observe. So they give those things that are observable. And again, it should be discriminative in quality, that is to secure the required information, basically. In the sense, like, quality should be there, and those information that you require, you should be able to obtain by that observation. Checklist should be such that. And again, you need to survey literature. Matlab, past studies, what have they observed for a study of this kind? What did they miss out? And what extra have they observed, which has added spice to their study, which has added more, they say, which has, helped them in giving a finding of this kind, right? And any kind of negative statement should be avoided. Like, for example, uh, say negative statements like, they are not eating in between meals. Those kind of statements you can avoid, right? Yes, no, jagah pe, yes, no. Negative statements, even in questionnaires, we say you should avoid. Even in interview schedules, we should say we should avoid, right? And again, every item should have a yes no response. If you're making a checklist, they have 3 meals a day, yes no, right? They have 2 meals a day. Or for example, the candidate has, is aware of the colors of his dress. If it is a job interview, yes, no, right? Again, the checklist quality should be complete, and it should be very comprehensive, right? The all the things that has to be observed has to be included in the checklist, and it should be comprehensive enough, in the sense wholesome, and then you should be able to give a proper conclusion based on this. And if possible, you can even have a pilot study or a trial run. Matlab, you can use that for some small samples, and then you can see if it is working. Is this checklist working? If I want to do it for the whole college, I will try it on 10 students, and then I will check if it is working. Are you following? class? Any doubts so far? Okay. So checklists again
No,
allow
no, no doubt.
sorry, Aman?
No, no doubt, ma'am.
Okay, thanks. So checklist will allow you inter-individual comparisons. When it's a job interview, I'm going to be making note of every candidate's response, right? Every candidate's body language, every candidate's timing of entry and exit. How long does it take to answer every single question? And how is his grooming? How are his mannerisms? What is his attitude? See, attitude basically means, not the way we speak, usko attitude hai. It actually means what is his approach towards the job, mentality towards the job, right? So, is he positively inclined towards the job? Is he a candidate whom we can work with, who's a team player, etc.? That is what is an attitude. Okay. So we are going to compare when I make, my observation, when I record my observation, I will be comparing between individuals. It should be comparable. And again, it should help me provide a simple method because I have certain criteria to recruit him, and those criteria I have recorded, and I'm going to be using that and then making a making an observation. Again, it is useful in evaluating any learning activity. So now, again, it is helpful in evaluating any kind of procedural work, right? So, when I evaluate, like kind of, I'm going to learn. Okay, this is what generally I had certain expectation, but all the candidates have come up with this. So maybe I will tone down my expectation, right? I expected all the candidates to come in suit and tie, whereas they came in simple formal, but they did not have tie or suit. So, I should now observe only if they are coming with proper shoes, proper shirt, proper trouser, etc. Beyond that, I will tone down my expectation, right? And again, any kind of work procedure, yeah, that is also the same thing, right? Again, it will help me to observe if I have direct attention, right? I will observe on these grounds only. And any kind of objectivity I will check with. I will not be subjective. Though he dressed, his face was gloomy, right? This is not, I need to question, I need to find out. Face can be, he didn't do it deliberately. So, I can always say, see, these are my judgments. Let me not be subjective. So, I will say, whatever is here, accordingly, I will observe and I will write my observation in descriptive form to certain things that are not contained here. Let me judge when I'm actually coming to recruiting them, right? Or shortlisting them. Again, it is useful for those processes against a series of actions. As I said, I have divided this into series of actions, like how they answer, how they enter the room, how they greet, what mannerisms, what is their attitude towards work based on the responses, based on the body language, based on their grooming, etc. Again, it reduces any chance of observation error because many सबका checklist बना दिया. Like for example, when you're traveling, you make a checklist of things. There are very less chances or remote chances that you will forget something. Checklist is a list of things that you need to do, and you have jotted it down, and accordingly you are going. It is giving you a focus of what you need to actually observe or what you need to, uh, be doing. But again, disadvantages, if it is going to be a checklist, I'm going to be concentrating only on it. Probably the scores will be very difficult to interpret also. Like, a candidate may have some other special talent. I may miss out on that because I have a checklist. Uske hisab se hi main chahti hu. There's something else also I need to actually observe and make a note of. Again, basically, if this checklist is for me to observe, it may not indicate their performance in the job. Probably the candidate I recruited may not be performing well or may not be sticking on to the job. But based on the checklist, he fits into the job. right? So therefore, for any kind of qualitative studies, it is of limited use. Like for example, one example of qualitative study is, like for example, if it's a psychological, if it's a psychologist who is going to be interviewed, she or he cannot use a checklist and then be adhering to that checklist. He has to, have a have an open approach of questioning the individual. Are you able to understand, class? Are you able to follow?
Yes, ma'am.
Any doubts?
No.
Again, rating scale again provides me a comprehensive way, basically. It's a way of, I systematically rate based on my judgment and then provide my, when I record it and then provide judgment. Like, for example, instead of saying yes or no, I would say the degree to which, like, strongly I agree with this. There was this, the candidate is able to understand everything and answer. I strongly agree. You've seen questionnaires with that strongly agree, disagree, or like it very much, like it, neutral, do not like it at all, etc. Those kind of scale, usually you must have seen in 3 or 5 scale. There could be many 7 scale or even number of scales. Even number again it becomes difficult to analyze. So people generally avoid even number scales. It is either 3 or 5 which is popularly used. We also have graphical rating scale where you are asked to dot where it comes to. Have you seen that? Like it's a try. Um, like for example, see if you have, I have to the least I will be here, or most disagree I will be here, and it is strongly agree I will be on this. Have you seen that kind of scales? Those are also popular. They are all graphic scales. And again, a set of categories that identifies, say for example, you may have different types of graphs where you are asked to mark rate based on your scale. You may ask to mark a dot, or you may ask to draw a line, etc. These are all graphic scale. Like see for example, uh, this is one example where never, seldom, occasionally, frequently, always. Have you seen this kind of a scale? This also is a rating scale. Now, when I say numerical rating scale, how much do you like this ice cream? Mark from 1 to 10. 10 is the, 10 gives you, 10 says more in favor, and then very much in favor. Whereas 1 says not at all in favor. So you may even have 7, you may have 5, where you indicate that you are okay with it, right? So neutral to it. To what extent does a staff nurse participate? So if you rate 5, she participates, she is very, very participative. If you she's least participative, if it is 1. Now, descriptive scale, again, as I said, verbal phrases, strongly agree, disagree, etc. are descriptive phrases. What are the advantages of having a rating scale? So when I have a class, I hope I'm not too fast. Are you following?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Again, when I say advantages of a rating scale, these are all included in your, why am I talking about rating scale here? It is included in your survey. It is included in your interview schedule. It could be included in your questionnaire as well as observation checklist, right? So when it is an observation, you are not directly asking the respondents to respond. You are going to be observing, or you're hiring somebody to make an observation and record the observation. So therefore, we are talking about rating scale here, somebody is going to record based on the degree of acceptance. So now, when I say advantages, it will give you a focus. As I told you, what exactly should I note? So it is giving you a focus there, right? And to what degree is it? So I mean, you are not confused. I like it and I don't like it. So therefore, that confusion is avoided. When I say you are fond of humble ice cream, you say to what extent? If I say, see, I mean, one counts for the least, whereas five counts for the most. So you may mark it there. Yes, I'm okay with it. So three, right? So again, it will provide a common frame. Basically, like, if I want to compare, there are 100 participants. Now it helps me data analysis actually. These scores, 3, 4, 5, whatever, for a particular question, data analysis may easily aa jata hai. So again, so therefore, it is a common frame of reference. Again, when I talk about, they can be efficient and, it's easy for me to use. It is easily telling me, they like it a lot. So when I see majority of them have marked 4 and 5, I would say they all like it a lot. And again, it is used to evaluate performance, skills, product outcomes, etc. Basically, how skilled you are or how have you performed and how is the outcome. Are they all very much satisfied? Yes, it is seen on. Supposing I ask for a feedback, then you will say okay, or you will say disagree, or you will say I strongly agree with you. All these things, it helps me understand what it is instead of using verbal. I mean, like, from all these point of view, I mean, I feel it could have been better. So instead of using so much, I have told you to give me uh, rating scale, I mean, in a rating scale between 5. So if all of you have quoted 3, there is some scope for improvement. Then if it is 2, I need to improve a lot on what I am communicating. So then it gives me an idea, easily I can make out this is what it is, right? Class, are you following? And the information is very, very comprehensive, and there is no here and there, there's no so much information, there is not too less information, it is adequate basically. So again, it helps me reduce subjectivity and unreliability. See, just give me a sec, sorry. Very sorry. So again, any kind of subjectivity is avoided. I like it a lot. A lot means what? So, but then rating scale mein dekha to I strongly like it. Yeah, I say I like it the most. I've given that, right? So that is easier for me to understand. Obviously, unreliability, I like it a lot. So is it so much that you like it, or is it like around 4 scale? So this kind of an ambiguity is avoided. So again, when you talk about it, rating scale are used in a lot of areas. It has a lot of, I mean, large number of properties. Again, you can have for various variables. Any doubt so far? Any doubt? Yes, you. If you have a doubt, please put up your hand, or you please chip in and ask. Okay? Now, what are the limitations? Again, certain things are very difficult to rate, and there is an element of subjectivity. When I say I like the ice cream a lot, this is subjective. Or I will say salty, it was very salty. Then where will I go and rate, right? The food was very salty. Where will I rate, right? I like the food. I didn't like the food. Okay, in between, if I'm choosing a neutral, food was good, but it was too salty. So where will I record this, right? So that 3 was marked. And again, see, when it comes to students, again, it is very difficult, basically. Like, for example, how good are they in their academics? So, not based on their scores or not, but based on what should I rate them. So, again, it's very difficult for me to rate. And usually, when I'm asked to rate, explain the quality of students, even if it is in three, I will always give a five, right? Or if I'm asked to say, like, how was the food in the restaurant? I quickly say, I mean, let me not be harsh with him. I don't give him the exact rating. I give him something more than what he deserves. This is generally happens with the rating schemes. So there is this error of leniency, error of tendency, and halo effect also that we have seen. Any doubts so far? And again, observer's bias is always there in a rating scheme. Any doubts so far, class?
No, ma'am.
Just one question to ask you. Why is this strength so less? The declining trend, class after class. Why is the strength so less?
मैम एक्चुअली
Yeah.
फ्रेशर्स बारे में मुझे पता नहीं था.
Sorry. नहीं पता था.
हाँ.
I mean, I was told to start. Even otherwise, even the last class, nobody turned up. And it's like, every class there is 3 or 4 students. There are just 3 or 4 students.
लास्ट टाइम में वो दिवाली का हॉलीडेज के बाद में हम लोग आए थे स्कूल पर. इस बार मेरे को आना नहीं सिलेक्शन होगा.
Fine. Anyways, I will start with my next part. We have to see about secondary data. Okay. We are done with primary data. We will start with secondary data. Any doubts so far? Any doubt so far?
No.
Sure. So, what are the sources of secondary data? What all did we see for primary data? Primary data में क्या क्या? Sorry.
Sources of what?
Yeah, what are the sources of primary data? As primary data में क्या क्या थे?
जैसे कि सर्वेज हुआ है.
Sorry.
जैसे कि हम सर्वेज एंड क्वेश्चंस करते हैं तो वहाँ से डेटा कलेक्ट करते हैं यूजिंग दी मतलब हम स्ट्रक्चर और सेमी स्ट्रक्चर.
प्राइमरी डेटा इज फर्स्ट हैंड इन्फॉर्मेशन, पर हमने क्या क्या टूल्स देखे थे? टूल्स हाँ अभी देखा था ना, ऑब्जर्वेशन. इसके अलावा क्या क्या थे?
टूल्स में और भी टूल्स दे सकते हैं which is available in the market. Open source means you can from internet or anywhere. We can get the data from the internet also.
Yeah, what is that for? Tools matlab, I'm asking you, see, we used, we started with survey, right? एक को हमने form भेजा and then we did this survey. You remember that? Then we said questionnaire. Then we spoke about interview schedule, right? interview, and then we spoke about observation. These are some of the techniques or tools to collect primary data. Secondary data is available from published and unpublished sources, right? I'll send you notes on that. I'll click pictures and send you notes on it, not much on it. So secondary data is available on internet, and हमने sampling के time में हमने advantages disadvantages सब देखा था, right? So secondary data is available on internet, and then I'm sorry, I mean it is available from published and unpublished sources, right? So when it is available from published and unpublished sources, they could be in the form of diaries, theses, which are already submitted, PhD, MPhil theses, or even PG theses, right? And plus, it is government websites like you have CMI, Center for Monitoring Indian Economy. They also publish data. Then NSO, National Statistics Organization, they publish data. All these are sources of secondary data, right? You can collect them, but what is the advantage of primary data is first-hand information, and then it is collected from the way it is prescribed. So you are going to be tailor making it as per your requirement. जो चाहिए collect करते हो, जो नहीं चाहिए छोड़ देते हो. Whereas secondary data you can only take what is available. Primary data का disadvantage क्या है? It consumes a lot of time. Whereas secondary data saves a lot of time and cost. एक एक को जाके आप ऑब्जर्व करो, इंटरव्यू करो, कितना टाइम और कॉस्ट लगता है. कभी कभी रिसर्च का टाइम भी चला जाता है. Whereas when you talk about secondary data, you can save time and then pick up the data that's already available to you. समझ में आ रहा है class? Are you able to understand? Yes, no.
Yes, sir.
So this is about secondary data. I will click and send pictures of it to you. Okay, the notes part of it. We have some in our sampling and initial stage of data collection also. We do have. I'll just open it. And we are through with data collection. Now I need to do data analysis, which I will start in the next class. But I don't find it very participative from your side. I mean, your citizen, not only you, but I mean, your class. I'll just share this. Just to have a recap, primary versus secondary, where we have the advantage, disadvantage, etc. These are called tools. Whatever we said, na, your questionnaire, your observation, all these are called tools. And so don't be confused. Interview is a tool. Okay. Are you following class? We saw everything in detail. Any doubts so far? Any doubt? I have shared this with you. Just check your, group. If I have not shared, I will share it. I will start with data processing. After the data is collected, what is the first? What are the steps? What will you do with the data? Class? Are you there with me? Are you there with me?
Yeah, I'm audible. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. After the data is collected, what will you do with the data? I'm not sharing any screen now. I'm only asking you so that you start responding. We'll start this week. And again, join at 7:30 sharp, because after this, I will have to go to my college.
We can analyze the data and segregate as per our
Yeah.
requirement.
What is the first step? The moment I collect the data, will I sit and analyze?
Yeah.
What do I do with the data? Class? Just try. The moment I collect the data, what will I do? Are you there?
Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah. What do I do with the data that is collected?
Ma'am, after collecting data, uh,
Huh?
we can clean the data and
Excellent.
prepare for
See, I will, right. I will be processing the data. The moment I collect the data, I
using,
will be processing the data. Right?
yeah, we can filter out the incorrect data and
Correct.
irrelevant data.
I will check if the questionnaire is filled properly or if the schedule is filled properly. If something is missed out, I may call up the respondent. I will ask them, right, for the response if it is unfilled, or if it is completely an incomplete questionnaire, and if it is not as per the thing, I'm going to be discarding that questionnaire, and then I will start. Actually, I'm going to ignore that questionnaire and have a new questionnaire, right? So I will process the data. That is what we will say. I will process the data if it is going to be, if it is soon after collection. And after that, class, are you there? Yes. So after that, I'm going to analyze the data. I will first edit the data. Okay. And I will code the data and then I will analyze the data. So we will see step by step tomorrow. Because it will be too, I start something and then I will have to leave it. I think I've shared data processing also. Okay. Any doubts so far? Any doubts?
No,
I think this is- I edit, code, enter, and then or classify and then analyze. This is the process. We will see this process in detail. Okay. Can we stop here? Can we stop here,
yeah, ma'am. ऑफिस निकल
Ajay?
ऑफिस निकल रहा है
कुछ आपको ये इसमें कुछ देखना है डेटा कलेक्शन में, the one we saw? Do you want me to explain anything again?
No, man, post share कर दूंगा हम लोग को.
ठीक है, just go through all the notes I've given you, and if you have any doubt, please come back. Okay, so we'll stop here. Have a nice day.
Yeah, thanks, man.